Good morning, Cincinnati, and welcome into another episode of the Bearcat Brunch. Brought to you, as always, by our wonderful partners at Royal Links Golf Tours. Have you always wanted to play golf at St. Andrews? Have you ever enjoyed a perfect pint of Guinness in Ireland? Well, with Royal Links Golf Tours, you can do all that and more. They are a golf tour specialist offering unforgettable golf experiences in Scotland, England, Ireland, and Wales. Their custom itineraries are more than golf trips. They are immersive, cultural, and country experiences that will surprise and delight you both on and off the course. Royal Links Golf Tours is owned by former Bearcat quarterback Hayden Moore and his partner, UC alum Jeff Bartholomew. So if you'd like to play St. Andrews or famed Ballybunion, please visit their website at royallinksgolftours.com or call them at 770-331-1525. And with that, we are back on a beautiful sunny Sunday morning to recap the first ever Cincinnati Bearcats Big 12 football game, which the Bearcats dropped 20-6 to the number 16th ranked Oklahoma Sooners. As always, I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Jeff Howell. How are we doing this morning, Jeff?
I'm awake, so that's good.
That's half the battle.
Exactly.
I am as well. Again, staying up far too late watching pointless, Pac-12 football. But as we do every episode, we start with you and your biggest takeaway from the Bearcats' loss to the Sooners.
I think the defense is probably going to keep us in. Will have the ability to keep us in some games that maybe we shouldn't be hanging around in. And like last week, I mean, the offense has to get better. They've got to find a way to get back to what we were able to see with the kind of the flow of things. The first, I guess we can say like week and a half. First week and then half of the second game.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think to me the frustrating, obviously we'll get into the details of it, but the frustrating part is, they do good things and then they either shoot themselves in the foot or getting and this, I think, I think there's probably a bigger part of this that maybe we're not spending enough time on, of like all the new pieces, the new staff, the new offense in general, because you see when it's clicking and the talent is there, you see that it can be successful. I mean,
Absolutely.
The Miami game, obviously we've talked about that enough. The red zone issues, those existed again yesterday. The short yardage issues existed again. Especially in the second half, but it's just, Oklahoma has a better level of athlete than anybody we've seen to date. Offensively, they came into this game averaging, and we'll get into the defense, but obviously the offense is the storyline. But I mean, they came in averaging 55 points a game, hold them to 20. They came in averaging 66% on third down, which is just an insane number. Hold them to 37. Just things that put you in a position. They did the bend but don't break thing that we talked about on Wednesday. They get into the red zone, you force a turnover, you force a field goal. You're not going to you're not going to shut them down. 20 points is basically a perfect game. And there are things that defensively I'm frustrated with, or we could pick at, but you held the most efficient offense in the country through 3 weeks to 20 points. So I'm not sure what else you really want to ask that unit to do, given that Deshaun Pace was suspended. Jack Dingle was in and out most of the day with what looked like an ankle and then maybe something else later on. So you're having Jonathan Thompson's out there a lot. Ken Willis is playing the whole, you're not even at full strength going against.
Sammy Anderson's still not playing.
Yeah, Sammy's still out. So, I mean, you're not even at full strength against one of the best offenses in the country, and you hold them to 20 points. So it's a frustrating thing because we see glimpses of it offensively, but just something is not clicking, especially when they get down inside the 25. I know the telecast had up a graphic, I think partway through the third quarter, 12 trips inside the 25, 2 touchdowns, 4 field goals. Like, it's just, and when it's like that, like I know the easy thing to do is to just say play calling, coaching, whatever. When it's like that, it's everything. Let's just be clear about that. Like, it's everything. Like, you can't just single out play calling, or you can't just single out execution. Like, it's all bad right now. So I don't really have any time for like the whole like nitpicking here and there on different aspects of it.
Well, something's got to change though.
For sure.
Like, I mean, what is like the definition of insanity kind of thing? Like, it just seems that there is a major disconnect that occurs, and I don't know. Like, I don't know if it is. Obviously, there's some issue with quarterback play inside. There's some issue with blocking. I mean, the offensive line, I think we knew was going to be kind of a soft spot on the team.
Yeah. I definitely think the offensive. I actually did rewatch this one this morning, and I did some charting, and I think the offensive line was a major issue yesterday.
And I think so. I was talking to some people yesterday, like afterwards, and kind of like towards the end of the game, and I think there was an issue. There, well, obviously there's an issue, but I think maybe that Emory. Obviously, there's pressure quite a bit, it seems, which obviously is going to, let's say it cuts his ability to go through any kind of reads or progressions. Let's say it cuts it in half, to be generous. And it seems like then when there's not maybe necessarily pressure there, maybe sometimes he's anticipating it and is, the interception over, I think it was like at the end of the half there, it was very clear that it was snap, turn, throw, and never saw the safety coming over.
Yeah, I mean, and Satterfield mentioned that in the post game, like that was just a bad read. You're on the right hash, and your trips to the right, and you're throwing all the way down the left sideline, and that was not the read. I mean, the read was somewhere to the right, more than likely. But you're right. Like, he threw the ball 24 times in the first half, which is too many times. But when I give you this stat, I'm going to ask rhetorically, like, what else were they supposed to do? They ran the ball 15 times in the first half. 10 of them went for 2 yards or less. So if you can't run the ball and you're supposed to be a running team that uses play action off of your run, then what the heck are you supposed to do besides throw? Plus, you had the last drive of the first half where you're trying to get down the field quickly, so you're going to throw the ball more times than not. But, I mean, I've got Kiner 0, Jones -2, Smith 0, Jones 0, Monty 2, Monty -2, Miles 1, Kiner -1, Kiner -2, Jones 2. Like, those are some of your runs in the first half. What are you supposed to do? I thought Oklahoma's linebackers and their game plan did a great job. They were firing the A-gap constantly.
They were downhill all day.
And then, he's got 11 incompletions in the first half. 5 of those were straight throwaways where he's under immediate pressure or had less than 2 seconds to throw the ball. You got a drop and Shamon's drop and the interception. So he's 13 for 24 in the first half with 5 just automatic throwaways and a drop when you can't run the ball. And it still should have been 10-6. Like, the snap, the hold was good. Carter Brown just shanked one. I mean, it's going to happen.
Well, if you go back to that, I think Coach said in the presser that he thought the snap was low, and
I watched it plenty of times. It seemed like they got it down for a 26-yarder. It was good enough. It wasn't any worse than the 54-yarder.
Well, it looked an awful lot like like a very bad duck hook
Yeah.
on like a par three. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
you just snap hooked your driver into the water on a par five, like
low, very like a
because
stinger snap
that's what
hook
I
is what it
thought. Like
looked
I
like.
was like, shit, was the ball like on its side?
Yeah,
And
because it
so
didn't
I
even look natural the way that the ball. I don't
no,
know.
I'm not sure what happened, but either way, like this offense is built on running the ball first and foremost, and then play action and taking shots down the field. And if you can't run the ball, then you can't really take shots down the field. There's no reason for, you did a good job with, like I said, in the A gap. Danny Stutzman was awesome. I mean,
That guy's
13
crazy.
tackles, a sack, 3.5 tackles for loss. But Deshaun McCullough was good. Jaron Kanik was good. Like, they were just, I mean, let's just be real. They read things quicker than we could match them. Like, the offensive line couldn't keep up with their stunts, couldn't keep up with their pressure. Sometimes it was overloads, and there's just nothing you're going to be able to do.
And
But other times, like they're beating blocks. They're on one run play. I think it maybe was the second drive. Stutzman beat the tight end coming across.
yes, the other thing that stands out a lot with that, like with what happened yesterday, they didn't miss any tackles. Like none of the and none of our guys made them miss.
I had that in my notes, and that's been a problem all year. We don't break. We haven't broken tackles. You got a swing pass out to Miles. There's nobody there but the safety, and he brings him down.
Like you cannot get tackled in the open field every time.
No,
and expect to be able to do anything explosive or to like get anything going if every time you're matched up one-on-one you lose.
Yeah, I think on we were awful on third down, but we were awful on first down to kind of get into that position a lot of times. Awful on second down to get into that position. So I mean, I think I was looking at it. About half of the third down attempts, roughly, were like 9 yards or more. So I mean, you're limiting yourself there as well.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But there's clearly something going on when they get inside the red zone / 25-ish, whatever, and short yardage, where they're just making it way too hard for themselves. I mean, when Emory had time and they were running slants, like the slant to Evan, a stick route, a hook, a speed, like there's no speed outs. They're like, they do all that stuff just fine. And then they don't run it on 2nd and 2, 3rd and 2, 4th and 2, whatever. Like the 1 4th down that kind of went through Peyton Singletary's hands.
Yeah.
D. Wiggins, I think, is open, but they're running like 3 guys across, and it's tough to see, and it's slow to develop. It was 4th and 2, kind of like towards the lair, and with the game still kind of in the balance. And I'm like, it seems like a wrong play to call there.
Yeah, like you said, it's a mix of likely play calling, like not when you get these kind of like slow to develop plays down there in a confined space. If your line isn't holding their water, it's all going to blow up, and
right.
so and that then leads to Emory maybe only making one read or maybe deciding before he snaps the ball, like, well, I'm just going to throw it to Xavier. I'm going to throw it that direction. I know,
or it's one read and go, because in his mind he's like, I'm not going to have time to get to read 2 and 3, so I'm not even going to take the chance that I have like better protection than I had on the last play. So I'm just going to get what I can get, and that's a problem. He missed some throws. I'm not absolving him of playing a very the second interception. They're down. He's just trying to make a play. There's a guy hanging on his leg. Like, it's 4th down. I'm not really concerned about that one. But like, and then, so you can talk scheme and everything and the play calling and things of that nature. But like, at what point do you just say, like, it's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 4th and 2, like somebody's just make a damn play. Like when you're one-on-ones, like, I know we want to have this like they're college kids that we don't want to be critical. Like, you can be critical without criticizing. Like you can't every third down and short, second and short, fourth and short, whatever. Every one of those can't be the wrong play call.
Oh, it just can't be that complicated.
Like at some point, hey guys, like block the guy in front of you. Like there was a 3rd and 1, I think. Miles, there's a decent hole there. The guy for Oklahoma fills it really well and just stones him. Like you got to be able to. I'm not saying make that guy miss and turn it into a 60-yard touchdown, but like you can't just get stopped in your tracks right there without being able to squeeze out 2 yards. Like that's a one-on-one play that we are not making right now.
Yeah. I mean, we're not making it anywhere. At any, I mean, if you want to break the line down to one-on-ones, like a lot of the time we're losing there too. And that's where it, I mean, it obviously like manifests itself in other places or causes issue. Like the ripple effect of the fact that the line isn't the greatest is kind of now pushing out elsewhere. But when we do get the opportunity to do something, those guys aren't making anybody or not kind of carrying their load either, at least on the offensive side of the ball.
Right. I mean, you're just like in this game in particular, like too much getting pushed back into the backfield, whether it was a run play or pass play. Too many just not free runner around the edges, but like the tackles are struggling. You know, John Williams has been getting beat consistently now around the edge in multiple games. They were already, in this game, they did some rotating with him and Philip Wilder. But, DeAndre Buford has an extremely costly penalty down, prior to the missed field goal to push him back to 2nd and 13 down there, and the interior got moved around a lot too. So it's we were concerned about the tackles, but it was everybody yesterday.
Well, and I think, you kind of expect when you go up against an Oklahoma or like, I mean, when the Bearcats moved into the Big 12, like you had to expect, and everybody said it. We've said it here, other places, with people smarter than me have said it. Like when you go in, there's not going to be any. Once you hit conference play, you're not, running up against. You're not getting a break from the time conference play starts to the time it ends. You don't get a break with the guys you're going against. So you've got to be able to do your job and do it well all the time, or else this is what's going to happen. And if you like go back to it, you said we were going to hold them to 20 points. This team, this juggernaut offensive team that runs plays faster than Chip Kelly's old Oregon teams, like I would be like, okay, cool. If we hold them to 20, we got a shot, and we did have a shot. I mean, it was close enough, but the way the offense was playing, it was always kind of like, unless the defense can get a pick six or a scoop and score, I'm not certain that we're going to be able to, that we can even put up enough points, even holding them just to 20.
Right. I mean, it's 10-6, and they go and they score pretty easily to go back up 17-6. But it's it's like you're asking the defense constantly to and in that case, it would have been great if they got another stop, because the offense had the end of the first half and into the third quarter. They were moving the ball again. They're getting bogged down in the same situations, but like you get that stop there, who knows? But yeah, you can't and I guess that is also the frustrating part, is not saying that we would have won the game. I'm not going to say we should have, could have, not any of that. It's just you hold them to 20. You want to put your, half of your team has put yourself in a position to make the game something at the end, and the offense just has not got it going right now. And I think Oklahoma's one of, I think Texas is a cut above everybody else in the conference right now. But Oklahoma's pretty damn good. And, that's the thing, is can we get these offensive struggles figured out? Because the teams we're going to be playing, I don't think, are anywhere near as good as Oklahoma, especially offensively. But I mean, their defense is their defense was awful last year. And from that to this, I mean, it's pretty darn good, even with the UC struggles. Like just watching them fundamentally, watching the different looks that they showed, watching how aggressive they were playing. Like I think they're going to be a good defense, regardless of who they're playing the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So can we get the things figured out? Can we, not? I think it's the thing that just I think I keep going back to is we just seem to make it harder than it needs to be.
Yeah.
On the short yardage stuff inside the 20, like that it shouldn't. Like I know it's harder because there's less space. You don't have as many plays to call. The defense doesn't have to worry about getting beat over the top. They can be more aggressive, but that's on the coaches to figure that out, and it's on the players on those short yardage ones to bow up and just be like, we're picking it up. Like I'm gonna win my one-on-one battle, and we're just not doing that enough right now.
Yeah, I mean, and you've got weapons. Like, I mean, Xavier Henderson is an NFL receiver. I mean, that guy is just unreal. Braden Smith is an alien. Like, the guy can catch anything that's within, like, his reach, and some stuff that's a little outside of that. And for them to struggle so much, and like, if you get it close enough, I mean, Corey Kiner should be able to run the most people over, right? Like at least push them back a few yards just on his own.
Yeah,
and it's
I
know we're like beating a dead horse with offense, but
you're playing from behind, and I talked about the run game issues, especially in the first half. I think I would have liked to have seen a little more of Miles, just because his speed element was noticeable on his runs. He only had 6 for 37 yards, along with 16. It just felt like he gave them, especially on the wide zone runs that they had. The inside zone was a disaster in the first half. But the wide zone runs that were somewhat successful, I felt like his speed element was noticeable. But again, I mean, you're behind and you're not running the ball well. So does it really? I'm not sure that's worth nitpicking on. It's on itself, but they have to figure it out. You got a short week. You're going to BYU.
That's the other big issue is, you don't have a lot of
guys
time this
banged
week.
up. I know sounded like Jordan Young banged up his hand at some point late in the game. We don't know the status of Sammy. We don't know the status of, Jack Dingle, how he's going to be on a short week. So you played a tough physical game in a hot conditions, and now you got to travel to, the furthest out west team in the conference right now and play late on a Friday night. So you're gonna have to figure this stuff out real quick.
In Satterfield, I think he said that Deshaun Pace will be back,
right?
Or he expects that he'll be back.
Should be, yeah.
And, I mean, I don't know that it. I mean, he hasn't really like stood out as a, as like a star by any means on defense. I thought Ken filled in very well yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I did send. I told Aaron before the game. I said I think that the Godfather pops off, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. Like if that will necessarily translate to a win. And I thought Dante had a heck of a game. From where he was at.
I mean, the defense by and large was very good. I mean, Dorian Jones, 13 tackles, a sack.
It seemed like every time that the camera popped up when we were on defense, every time the camera popped up, it was Dorian Jones like standing there over whoever he just laid out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you had Justin Harris, 10 tackles, Taj Ward, 9 and 2 tackles for loss, Ken Willis, 9 and a tackle for loss. There were just, and again, they had to play basically a perfect game, but there were still just moments where you're like, oh, just like, you got them backed up. It's 3rd and 19. They're giving up. They run the ball. They're giving up, and you let the guy break tackles and get 20 yards. Like just.
There were certainly those little situations on defense where you're just like,
and those, even though the defense played a really, really solid game, those are moments that get magnified when the offense is struggling the way that it was struggling. So like,
Mhm.
and again, I'm not being super critical of that, but like those type of situations, like the offense is hurting. We got to get off the field there. Like you cannot give up 3rd and 19 from your own 3-yard line
on a basic little handoff. I mean, it wasn't even there wasn't even an exotic nature to the play that they ran. They literally snapped the ball, turned, and just handed it off, and we're like, grab a couple yards so that maybe our punter has some room back here.
It was a give up play.
And he just kept going and making, like, they were just Bearcats falling on the ground all around him as he made it all the way up to the.
And I think, a couple chances. I know Threats had one. Would have been tough interceptions. But again, like, in these situations, you got to make those plays against a team like this when you know your, offense is having a hard time playing a good defense. And, it seems like a lot to ask to be like, make every interception if it touches your hand, make every tackle, like no broken tackles. And, so I don't want to get too far out over that, but like, that's kind of the edge they're on right now due to the offensive issues that you just can't give up that type of a play on 3rd and 19 because you stop them. They're at the 5-yard line, 6-yard line. They're punting. They're backed up in the student section. Maybe he shanks another one. I mean, the punter was not good, so maybe you get the ball. You end up getting the ball in plus territory, and maybe you hit a big play because you feel like you got momentum or something. Like, just it all works together. So the big play issue, I think, is there as well. I mean, you're just not going to consistently drive in, drive out, move the ball down the field without some big plays. I know I think I tweeted it out. UC's longest play of the day was 22 yards. And on every Oklahoma scoring drive, so there are 4 scoring drives, they had at least one play of 18 yards.
They had one longer. The Shimon pass was 35. The Shimon pass was 35 yards.
The Shimon pass, yeah.
And then the Henderson one where he was
one play. We had one play.
Yeah.
You
out of bounds, and they gave it.
I think I meant to say we had one.
That play stood, Chad. He was inbounds.
We had one play longer than 35 yards, or longer than 22 yards.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're not stretching anything, when you're not able to stretch anything down the field, I mean, but it should be there. That's the thing. It's like you've got the guys to make it be there. You just you have to give Emery it starts there. He's got to have the time, and then I was just shaking my head yesterday because the offense goes out and it just seems like the offense is out there, and then suddenly they're turning to walk back off the field while they punt the ball away. And then the defense is going back out against a team that runs plays so fast. Our guys are half the time not getting a chance to get a breather. I mean, it really is a wonder that we didn't lose by 30 or 40 points.
Which is funny because I think time of possession is an overblown stat, but we won time of possession by 5 minutes. I felt like we did what we wanted to do as far as we did what we wanted to do as far as how we were going to win was run the ball, control the pace and flow of the game. And I don't think we ran the ball well, but we somehow controlled the pace and flow of the game while being 3 for 15 on 3rd down and only giving up 20 points. So, if you told me you give up 20 points and you control the pace of the game, it's one thing to win the time of possession, but the other team scores 5 touchdowns because they're scoring, in 2 minutes, 2-minute drives.
Lightning quick.
Right, but that wasn't the case. Even on their touchdown drives, they weren't necessarily lightning quick.
Right.
So you box score it, and you're like, geez, like how everything was right there for you, but your offense is just so inept right now in the red zone and on short yardage that you can't keep these drives going, and you can't capitalize unless you hit big plays. And I think teams are now, depending on what their scheme is, like I'm sitting back and being like, we're not gonna give up the big play. We're gonna keep everything in front of us, and they're not gonna be able to pick up these third downs. They'll eventually make mistakes. We'll eventually win a one-on-one play, and they're not gonna move the ball on us consistently because they're just not.
It goes back to kind of like the statement that I made last week that like this is kind of what I expected, like with things not looking like they're flowing perfectly all the time. It's kind of like inverted from when I expected it to happen. Like I kind of expected like the beginning, like the first two games, maybe for it to look so, I don't know, like disjointed maybe, or like not everything clicking properly, whereas like it is backwards, where we looked like everything was clicking and guys were on the same page, and there seemed to be this like understanding between, and maybe some of that is because the offensive line wasn't getting as punished as they did yesterday.
Yeah,
which throws everything off.
I think the fits and starts is emblematic of a whole new offense, players, coaches, scheme, and then also more tape being out.
Okay.
I think as we've played games, as teams have had opportunities to study the players and how they're being used, is now where we're maybe seeing why things are bogging down in the red zone, bogging down on short yardage. And that is on the coaches to figure that out. Like the coach cliche comment is, we want to put our players in the best place, best place to have success. Like it's on us to put them in opportunistic situations. Well, on some of these plays, they're probably not putting them in the best situations. And then that's being compounded by when they do put them in a good situation, the players just aren't making plays. So It's impossible for us as fans to sit here and go, that was, I shouldn't say impossible. It's very hard. We don't get like all 22. We're not seeing everything, but it's like the play call could be great, and then the player isn't making the play, or the play call could be a bad play call, and the players aren't making the plays. Like it's very hard to out scheme poor execution, and it's very hard to out execute a poor play, and we're kind of getting both of those things right now at the same time.
I mean, I don't know what the answer is, and they unfortunately have a 3-day week here where they've got to kind of figure out some things, maybe get some. I don't know if it comes down to like stripping the play, like looking at them and be like, look, we're going to strip the playbook all the way down when we get inside this area, and like these are the plays we're going to run, and it's nothing. You go all the way back to basics there, and then say like, let's see if we can figure this out this way.
Well, I think it starts up front and with the run game, because the offensive line is not an offensive line built to just have Emory Jones drop back consistently, where the defense knows he's dropping back.
Yeah.
So if you can't run the ball, then you're certainly not going to, like, you can't run the ball and it's 3rd and 9. Like, why would we think you're going to be able to protect when they're bringing 5-6 guys? So everything feeds off of the run game, and especially in the first half, that was essentially non-existent, which forced them to throw, which, Emory Jones is what he is. Like, I think he's been a better player, especially than he was at Arizona State. But I mean, the guy's in his 6th year. We kind of know exactly what he is.
What you're going to get, yep.
He's not a guy that you just want back there constantly, especially behind an offensive line that has some issues. So they need to be going forward, blowing guys off the ball. 2nd and 5, third, I'd say 3rd and 2, but we can't pick 3rd and 2 up. But I mean, ideally, that's the situation you're in. You're not in 3rd and 9. You're not in, 3rd and 13 because you threw the ball on 1st down and ran the ball for -3 on 1st down, and then threw an incomplete pass, and now you're it just
when you get
it all
behind
starts
everything.
with, right.
It compounds, and we saw that turns into. Yeah, it's a 20-6 loss that you're like. I kind of likened it to the Reds, where I was like, I maybe like in a smaller version here, like I didn't necessarily expect going into it that we would be going toe to toe with Oklahoma, and then you are in some facets of the game where it's like keeping you there, and you're like, okay, like I think we got a shot here, but then the other parts of the machine are not working properly, and it keeps you from getting over that hump where maybe we're within a field goal or ahead by a field goal or something going into towards the end of the game. Just like how the Reds, you didn't think they were going to be anywhere around it. Like you could almost stomach getting blown out a little easier than it being like.
That's the frustrating part is the whole the last 2 weeks doing the whole, if I told you that this happened, you'd be like, oh, well, I'll take that. It's like Miami. If I told you we had over 500 yards of offense and had the ball in the red zone 8 times, you'd be like, oh, well, we must have won easily. And then this week, if I told you we held one of the best offenses in the country to 35 points below their average, you'd be like, all right, like we're definitely in this game. Maybe we don't win because they're still really good, but like we're definitely in it. And a couple plays here and there, I think Shaman's drop was huge.
Yeah, it hit him right in the hands.
That sets him up 1st and 10 inside the 20 with plenty of time left, and at least I want to say still probably both timeouts to possibly make it 10-10 at the half. And then even just the missed field goal, like if it's 10-6 at half, you're like, okay, we kind of, we didn't run the ball effectively at all. We threw an interception inside the 25-yard line, and we're still only down 4 against this team. Like, we got a shot. And then you just come out with absolutely nothing on that drive. It's had to be, pretty demoralizing going into the locker room.
Well, even then, like even taking like another step back from that, we get the field goal. We're up 3-0. They have the ball, and literally, I thought I was watching a flashback when Dylan Gabriel threw the ball outside, and Jordan Young.
If he sliced in there on the,
it was literally going to be an identical clip to Sauce Gardner's first pick.
Yeah,
pick 6.
He had a great read on that. I mean, that's
he got his hands off to the side. It hit him right in the hand. Like I don't know if I don't even know who the receiver was. I don't know if he kind of bumped his hands as he was getting to it, but it would have been one of those things where they could have overlaid both of them together, and it would have been a really cool But then you'd be up 10-0 right there, and it's kind of one of the, take them out of everything that they're expecting to be able to do very early, and you're up 2 scores. Obviously, then the next throw lands in Threat's lap. He drops that. I mean, that drive ended on a fumble, but at the other end of the field.
Yeah.
A lot of shoulda, woulda, couldas, and like you said, it's seems like now this is 2 weeks in a row of if I told you that we were 2-1 going into Oklahoma, you would have expected that it was the loss was to Pitt. You would have been happy with 2-1 if you didn't know any of the facts as to who you lost to and who you beat.
Yeah.
And this week, kind of similar.
Yep. I mean, it's like, you have a game last week that you feel like you should have won because you played much better than you played yesterday, and didn't make the plays when you had to in the high leverage situations. And then the same thing happens yesterday. You're in a game against a really good team and you don't make the plays in high leverage situations. So it's on everybody. Like that's the part that I just can't, I can't pinpoint and get on one thing. When you cannot do what they're doing, it's a collective effort. Like everybody's got to raise their game. So it doesn't really do me any good to start blaming coaches or blaming players. Like shit, it's everybody, man. Like,
you just
it's
gotta
not
be better.
It's not like guys are running wide open and the players are missing them. So we got to do a better job of getting guys open. Got to do a better job of scheming open big plays.
Mm-hmm.
But for those big plays to happen, you got to break tackles and you got to block and you got to give your quarterback time and your receivers time to make those plays happen. So it all goes hand in hand.
We just got to do a better job of not being, 3rd and 9 over half the time, because you're not going to pick those up. I mean, like, you're just not. That's not conducive to winning football games. If every time you're on 3rd down, they know, like, well, this is either going to be some little draw play, maybe a little, like, give up screen, or they're going to try and throw it deep because it's towards the end of the game, and that we're in 4-down territory. Like, it's just. Yep.
So
Josh says that he thinks Miami's better than Pitt, which I think that's starting to show.
I don't know. I'm not sure I'm going to go that far.
I wouldn't say that, but that Pitt was not as good as of a win as we thought it was at the time. But we talked about that last week too. So
yeah, I mean they played a little bit better. Phil Dracovic wasn't a total disaster last night against North Carolina. But yeah, I mean, I don't think they're great, but I didn't think they were great coming into the year. I think it was more so of our unknowns and being on the road in week 2 than it was thinking they were good.
A world beater. Yeah.
So, we talked about it, what we have ahead of us in the next week, and then you have a bye, and then you get, that's the thing is, like, you get a bye, and then you get 3 teams that are kind of, who knows what the heck's going on. We can say the same thing about us, but that's right. The nature of this league this year is, you have opportunities. Like, they will have opportunities in their next 4 games to turn things around and to get some wins. And looking at how these next 8 games go, like, absolutely 4-4 is something that can be had.
Yeah.
Like, and before we move off this game, I do not want to end the podcast or not discuss how awesome the atmosphere was. Big Noon kickoff was I didn't go down there, but that looked to be insane. Mark Ingram is a down the drive natural. Crowd was, on their first drive, they picked up the first down, and then on 3rd down, super loud, communication issues, poor snap. They got lucky, really, that the ball bounced off of his shoulder and didn't just go over his shoulder.
And didn't just launch into the...
He was not paying attention. He was not looking at it at all. So that could have been way worse for them. But the crowd was loud all game. Like, hats off to everybody. And that's the thing that we need to, as fans, and I know it can be tough, but, like, we need to do this all the time, no matter what's going on, no matter who we're playing. That's how you make this a truly hostile environment against better teams. We can't be front runners. We can't be loud and be there in full throat when things are going great. Like, you got to be behind our team all the time, and that's that's just part of the deal. You're going to have games like this where it's nip and tuck. Like, we are very used to, like, blowing bad teams out in the American. There were very few times at Nippert Stadium where it was like a comeback win or a back and forth game over the last several years. So, this is what we're in now, at least this year, with a lot of new pieces, depth being tested with, whether it's Deshaun's suspension, injuries, just part of football. And we knew the depth was going to be a problem coming into this year.
Coach Satterfield said that in his press conference last night that our depth is not there. Like we don't have a ton of guys. It's, I don't think he wanted to say non-existent, but that's.
I mean, I don't think it's like a crutch or an excuse. We talked about it all summer.
Yeah.
Like and there's position
these guys got to play
because of the coaching change, because of the transfer portal. Like there's just position groups that don't have the requisite depth that they need at this point. So guys get hurt. It's football. So other guys are going to step up, and hopefully they can handle that. But I thought the crowd was awesome. Definitely caused problems for OU. Their first true road game. I mean, they played at Tulsa, but that was pretty much an entire home crowd. So
I saw one of their guy, Parker Thune. I hope I'm saying his last name right. I guess he covers Oklahoma for like Rivals or whatever. And he had tweeted out or posted or whatever it is now that it doesn't sound like there are only 40,000 people here. That it's a fantastic environment for college football. Which if you're into taking some moral victories away from it or some victories as a fan base, pat yourself on the back for making the environment something that a Big 12 team that is has been around big time college football for quite some time is thoroughly impressed with our little stadium that everybody's like, oh, it's too small to be a big time place, and they
I think even
everything I've seen,
like in his mentions, I think some of their fans were even like, yeah, we need to be more like this. Like it doesn't matter that we have 80,000 fans, like their stadium's louder than ours. Like
so there was one that commented in there and was like, why can't we be like this? And somebody was like, well, we need to not be a medical school and an engineering school and a math like everything they were like everything they were listing off. I was like, UC is all of those things.
I mean, I will say I saw an awful lot of OU fans yesterday, and not a damn one of them had a cold beer in their hand. So I'm kind of questioning.
Did you offer them a Cincy Light?
I did see a couple drinking, and I said thank you for supporting our players.
Yep.
Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know, but yeah, I mean the atmosphere was great, and it needs to be like that against teams that aren't near as good as OU. So hopefully that helps cause them even more issues and propels the Bearcats to wins. I know we're already at almost 50 minutes, and we haven't even touched on national games on a week that was full of national games. Obviously the ending of the Notre Dame Ohio State game was something. Thought the game was over. Ohio State somehow gets the ball back, and then on the last two plays of the game, Notre Dame only has 10 guys on the field,
and they know
it. And I'm not sure, how the first one even happens because Ohio State subbed. So that would have given them the ability to sub. And then on the second one, there's a clear defensive lineman missing right where Ohio State ran the ball.
Yeah.
And Marcus Freeman says he didn't want to take a timeout or didn't want to take a penalty
because he didn't have any timeouts.
And I'm like, so you'd rather, and they're on the 1 yard line. So it's like, so you didn't want to give them a foot and a half because why? And you'd rather play it out with one less defensive lineman on the field when they're going to run the ball.
And they honestly hadn't had much. I mean, they had stopped Ohio State numerous times in short yardage situations in the middle of the field down to go. I mean, they had done that, and now you're just like, well, we're just gonna roll the dice on this one, like play with 10 guys out there when all they're trying to do is push our guys in that exact spot backwards, and we're gonna give them an extra big body to do that. It was very interesting.
Yeah, didn't make a ton of sense to me.
I also didn't understand why they ran they allowed Ohio State to hold on to a timeout by running a screenplay on
I noticed some conversation about like their own play calling on the drive before that.
It was very, very odd. Like they ran the ball. They, if I recall, they didn't get a whole lot, and then it gets backed up, and instead of just running the ball again to continue to drain the clock and at least take Ohio State's timeouts, they gave them a free timeout by throwing a screenplay that was almost a pick six.
Yeah.
By two, I can't pronounce his name.
I don't know either.
Whatever. But yeah, I mean, he got his hand up and almost had a pick six, and they turned into a free timeout for Ohio State. Which when you look at it, they score with 1 second to go, and you could have run. I know that's kind of like apples and oranges. Really, is how time is going to work after that happens.
So even if you want to run play and make them call, then
they don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Texas is really good.
Yeah.
Like I don't think Baylor's any good, but man, when they look good, they got some dudes on offense. And their defensive line is nasty.
Yeah, Texas is I'm glad we don't have to run into that.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're going to say significantly better than everybody else in the conference, but I think they're quite a bit better as of now. What else jumped out to you?
Well, the boys from Boulder, that
was expected, though. Like, did anybody not think that Oregon was going to just throttle them?
Well, I think though it almost became one of those situations on a much obviously larger scale than kind of what's going on. What happened like here, where like they came out, they did something a little unexpected at the beginning of the year. Things looked like they were, becoming especially like the casual fan, like all the pomp and circumstance and all the stuff that's going on around it. Like maybe they were better than everybody thought they would be, and it just wasn't there. And Oregon let them know, and then continued to let them know. And
I think when they played teams with significant talent, their deficiencies were going to be exposed greatly, and that's exactly what happened. Especially when you have a coach in Dan Lanning who made no bones about the fact that he wanted to score as many points as humanly possible against Colorado.
My favorite thing was their best offensive and defensive player streaming Twitch at halftime, down 35-0.
I liked how they had like 23 yards in the first half, which is only slightly worse than Iowa, who had 61 yards of offense with 6 minutes to go in the game.
I don't know, but Colorado carries some giant chair around with them.
Yeah, it's like a throne.
Yeah, they had somebody like took a picture of them after the game, like nothing like having to lug this thing off after getting
blown out. Yeah,
getting destroyed.
That one, the end of the Florida State Clemson game. I feel bad for their 40-year-old kicker. His 3 kids are distraught. Probably 3 teenage sons are probably distraught today. Alabama. That was the most obvious thing that was ever going to happen. Like everyone's doubting whether they're still good, and Lane is doing Lane things, and it was very clear that Alabama was going to just work them over.
And then surprising, I know that the final score is a lot different, but Arizona State hung with USC for quite some time. Like.
Yeah, because USC, I mean, it's play the USC over. Like they don't really care about defense.
It was tight. I mean, into like because all the pre-show, like the going on in the morning were like, do you take Caleb Williams with like 500 yards and how many touchdowns, and they're like, well, however many that he wants to get, and like he'll be out of the game by halftime, and like none of that happened. Like, I mean, he did end up with 322 yards and 3 touchdowns. So and they scored 15 points in the fourth quarter to kind of stretch it out a little bit. But I was just a little bit surprised that because Arizona State is not good, and they made it. They hung around a little bit longer than I thought would maybe happen. How about Ben Bryant, Northwestern?
I watched the end of that game. Dude threw a great ball to force overtime, and then they did a little kind of roll out, slip the tight end out in overtime. They were down 21, I think, maybe even into the fourth quarter. He threw for almost 400 yards, I think, or over 400 yards and 4 or 5 touchdowns.
396 yards, 4 touchdowns for Ben Bryant. And they were down 21 points at the start of the fourth quarter and scored 21 points to tie it and send it into overtime. And he was throwing downfield dimes, lasers, anything that you would want out of your quarterback. Ben Bryant was doing yesterday for Northwestern, and it had to feel. I mean, they showed him at the end of the game, where he was just kind of you could tell it hit him because.
Yeah, I mean that cannot be an easy situation. You transfer there, and then all the stuff happens with Pat Fitzgerald, and you weren't probably going to be very good anyway this year, and you're getting your butt kicked at home, and for them to fight back, especially against such an upstanding person like PJ Fleck, I really hate to see that happen. Yeah, I can't imagine what his comments in his post game were. I'm sure that was hilarious.
Oh, tough luck. Good old Ben Bryant came out there and led the charge
I'm
back.
Trying to think in conference there was anything that I will say my Big 12 conference championship game pick is not looking great. Texas Tech. Not looking great, and starting quarterback breaks his leg. So
I was going to say,
maybe we do wish we played them this year.
Well, I said Kansas State, and they're holding at least one L. But it is kind of looking
looked good. Iowa State actually scored some points, which was interesting, but that also makes me wonder about Oklahoma State. You let Iowa State score 34. What does that say about you?
Well, you let Iowa State score 34. That's an interesting situation there too. So, and we get to play them in 2 weeks? Or is that 3 weeks?
BYU, then Iowa State, Baylor, and at Oklahoma State. So I mean, you've got 4 games now. Because I think BYU will be tough at home, but
on a short week,
that's one that I feel. Kansas, I think, especially with the run game and the quarterback run game, probably showed UC some things they might be able to take advantage of. But yeah, I mean, this is a big 4-game stretch. Get a bye week in there, get 2 in a row at home. So big opportunity for the Bearcats to put themselves in position heading into the last month of the season.
Hopefully stack some wins, and maybe. I mean, I still think that 6 wins in a bowl game is very much a possibility. I mean, obviously they've got to fix these things. We can't be coming in here every week on the show and talking about if I told you, and being in a
because we're not playing in the Oklahomas anymore. I can't be if I told you at home against Iowa State we held them to 13 points and then still didn't win, I'm going to be well, then, So,
there needs to be some drastic changes if we get here that week, and that's what we're talking about.
Right. I mean, that's certainly not going to cut it. I don't really want to talk about the Bengals. I'm going to the game Monday night. I'm thinking I'm going to be seeing Jake Browning, which doesn't exactly excite me.
It'll probably be AJ McCarron. Don't worry.
Rachel asked me that last night when I got home. She's like, "Is AJ McCarron starting on Sunday?" I'm like, "Absolutely not."
No, they signed him to the practice squad.
Monday. Yeah. But no, I'm not really interested in talking about them. So,
but I do want to say something about, I know we normally hit Bearcats in the NFL, and we normally run down the list. We don't have to run down all of it, but Ivan Pace through PFF, if you want to go that way, is the number 1 defensive graded rookie linebacker, number 1 pass rush grade for rookie linebackers, and number 1 tackling grade for rookie linebackers. So who here is surprised by any of that?
I don't think anybody.
Not if you wear red and black on Saturdays. You're not surprised by it.
I don't really think anybody is. So hopefully his very, very strong start to the season continues. And we will be, even though the game is on Friday, we will still be Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
So as always, appreciate everybody, Deanna, Natalie, Josh, T-Win, everybody that jumps in the chat. Appreciate you guys getting up early. Hope you had maybe a Bloody Mary or a mimosa this morning with us, and not just a boring old coffee. I think we all need it after the last couple of weeks, but it's always fun to jump on here and hash things out. And we will be back next week after a late one. Not sure, hope it's a good one, because I'm going to be pretty upset if we're up till 2:00 in the morning and then got to talk about another tough loss for the Bearcats. But thanks again for everybody joining us on this episode of the Bearcat Brunch, brought to you, as always, by our Royal Links Golf Tours. If you're looking to schedule a trip out to Europe to play some golf and check out everything that they have to offer, please reach out to Hayden Moore or Jeff Bartholomew, and have a great Sunday, Cincinnati.